Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Taurus Rising. Hello, Ursula. How are you?
Hi. Good, Mandee. How are you?
I'm good. I was just laughing because as we were warming up for this episode, I was fixing my hair and I have a thing. I like my hair just to feel good or be like up or whatever out of my face sometimes. If it's touching me, it irritates me. And then I was thinking, I was like, I bet there's something in my chart that gives me permission or validation that I like to maybe do these things. And so we'll have to look into that with you, our amazing astrologist, because you're able to help people discover things like that about themselves, which is the whole point of this Taurus rising thing, right?
Right. Absolutely. So we were talking a little bit about what to talk about today. And I know it's been a while since the last time we recorded an episode. So I kind of felt like it was a good thing to kind of go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Because we've all been through a very deep internal process with the Venus retrograde that just happened, that started on December 19th and ended on January 29th. So we're fresh off the heels of that. And there was also a concurrent Mercury retrograde that was happening pretty much most of the same time as the Venus one. So that calls into our hearts and our minds, our mindsets. And with the Venus retrograde, it's, Venus is the connection to everything we love and value in our lives. So being Taurus risings, we are ruled by the planet Venus. Our charts are ruled by her. If you, the ruler of the chart, kind of like the planet that's behind the wheel at all times, is the ruler of the rising sign. And we're Taurus rising. So that's how that information comes into play. And it's really important because some of the basics that we're here to learn are our values and our self-worth. And the retrograde that just happened was in the sign of Capricorn. So that gives us a positive flow of energy. It's earth to earth. So we were in Venus school and we still are for a while. And it put everything on the table, our relationships, because she's the planet that relates to our connection to everything we love and value in our lives. And that really includes our relationships and our own self-worth and our own values. And I know a lot of that came up for both of us and still is. So we're in this time frame now where the retrograde's done, but Venus is now going in quote unquote direct motion over the same degrees of the retrograde. So it's like this back and forth, like it's direct and then the retrograde happens and then it's direct again. So it's like many chapters or layers of the experience.
I see. That feels right.
Yeah. So just being, loving, wanting to put yourself together. She's a planet that relates to, appearance to an extent and aesthetics.
Well, Mary Poppins.
Yeah. And how things feel on our body, very much about sensuality and our senses and all of the senses, including the ones that are perceptions beyond our bodies. So that makes a lot of sense how you started.
I have a sensitive sensory system and vessel.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even like to wear earphones or like headphones. Like I just, I'm peculiar about those things, but that's okay.
It's not peculiar. It's totally natural.
Totally natural.
I have weird things. Like I don't like socks that go above my ankle bone. It's so weird. But how things rest on our body is very important.
Like how many times do you think we had like chains shackled to our feet and we got thrown off of ships and cliffs and stuff in past lives? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's what I think of when I think of stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So to go into, for us and anyone else out there that's a Taurus rising that's listening, or a Libra rising for that matter, the retrograde wouldn't be in the same place in your chart, but you're still ruled by Venus because Venus also rules Libra. So those two signs probably experience this on a little bit of deeper level. People that have planets, in Capricorn, also probably when the retrograde is going over personal planets, that's really important. But it was in our 9th house of our chart, which relates to our beliefs and our spiritual beliefs and things that are outside of ourselves, things that are quote unquote foreign, and to long distance travel, learning new languages, higher learning, our connection to our higher selves. So we've been our philosophies. So we've been in this very chrysalis phase of kind of reviewing all of those things in our lives. Well, it's all sending positive energy to our first house and also to our fifth, because that's also an earth sign, Virgo, for Taurus risings. So it makes this triangle of energy that connects all those parts together. So I think it's really important because our mutual experience in this has been very much about our self-worth and our values and how we value ourselves, learning how to put ourselves first, and boundaries. Because the first house of the chart is it's you, it's your physical body. It's also your path to embodiment. So we have to learn how to separate ourselves from everybody else. That's a big part of that experience.
Juicy.
Yeah. And you had a lot of times the things that can come up during Venus retrogrades are breakups. Or
I'm taking notes as you're talking because I'm like, oh my God.
Yes, Mandee has a lot of stories if you care to share. Breakups, old lovers that can come back into our lives that kind of hold up the mirror and teach us why we're not with that person again, or if we want to reevaluate that relationship in general. So I'd like to turn it over to you if you care to share about the experience and how it's taught you in what happened, your self-worth and valuing and loving yourself.
Yeah. Over the past 6 months?
Venus has been in Capricorn since November-ish. So it's been it's like a percolation before we get a preview a little bit when the planet enters the sign of the retrograde.
I got you. So I'm going to start October-ish time.
Yeah. And she's still there until early March in Capricorn.
So March. And then, how long does Venus retrograde last? Is this one all year?
Interestingly, 40 days and 40 nights.
Huh. Next time it happens, we should have a 40-day, 40-night challenge.
Yeah, we could do something like that. We did our retrograde class during the retrograde, so that was a lot of fun.
Before I share all my dirty deets, will you share a little bit about our retrograde series in class for people tuning in, so you guys all out there watching, you have some future opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it should be a lot of fun because it was a lot of fun. I kind of put out the call. Like I use the planets as, spirit guides in my life. So I pray to them. I have a dialogue with them all the time. And I kind of cast the call like, hey, what should we teach about in this class? What's the most important thing? And then the next morning I woke up with Mary Poppins, like scenes from the movie Mary Poppins and the song A Spoonful of Sugar stuck in my head. So I was like, oh, that's curious. So it was a perfect synchronicity. We got this Disney Plus, 1 free month offer. So I was like, oh, I wonder if Mary Poppins is in there. So we looked and it was. So we got the free month and I rewatched the movie. And it was just the perfect example of a lot of the things that I think this retrograde was happening to teach all of us. And it also gave me an opportunity to revisit and look at Capricorn in a different way, because Capricorn is usually related to systems and structures, which, that is definitely there. But I think that's more of a traditional and, dare I say, even maybe outdated version of what the sign really means. And I always go back to the animal for the signs. If there is an animal, some of them don't have an animal. But for Capricorn, it's the sea goat, which isn't even a thing that exists in nature. It's a mystical creature. So I started thinking about Mary Poppins and how she's a mystic. And at the very beginning of the movie, one of the kids says she's a witch. And she owns it. She is a boss. She blows all the other nannies away.
I feel you, Mary.
And a lot of the movie is showing the light and the shadow sides of Capricorn energy. So Mr. Banks, he's the banker in this outdated, awful job and system, and they're all corrupt. And it really got me thinking about how she's a boss, and how we're really being called to revisit. Capricorn's a feminine sign. It's not masculine, but it gets associated with all of these, more, we could consider them or perceive them as masculine things, like money, like finances and systems with government and that kind of thing. So I think that it would be fun if anyone who's listening would just rewatch the original version, 1964 or 3, I think it was, and just see how she swoops in, owns it, shows her witchy side to mostly the kids. So there's inner child stuff in that movie as well, but also to the family. And she rescues them. And in the end, they come out of it and they're more themselves and they're experiencing joy and all the things that life is really supposed to be about. And just coming from a more light expression with the feminine and, being their weird selves. Bert is also a very good example. So the two of them together, I think, is really cool to see the interactions and how he's very, very much like, the divine masculine and divine feminine. I think they both kind of play out in the movie. And she rescues them and then she just goes on her way, waiting for the next call. So that all came up and that's what we taught for the class. So that was really fun.
He literally says, like, I'll be leaving when the wind changes.
Yeah. So it calls in the element of the wind, which you pointed out, and the kite and all that, like all these unseen forces that are at play. Yeah. The wind's a really big thing in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a cool part of it too that came through.
I love the wind and working with the wind, and it really does. That's how quickly we're supposed to shift and change our perceptions and release things. And we can use it to send love and prayer and healing and all kinds of things. And it can be there to support us and give us gentle nudges or communicate with spirit. And it's just one of my favorite elements. I love all the elements, but I got to thank the wind.
Yeah. Yep. And then some of the quotes that we used were when she's decorating the room, she puts her mirror up and she says, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. So I thought that was pretty cool to pull in the Venus part. And then also too, that she's practically perfect in every way. I think it was, when they do the measuring.
Yeah. She measures herself up.
How do you size up?
Yes. I'm practically perfect in every way.
Yeah. Of course.
Of course. Oh, Mary.
Yeah.
And then she even checks herself in the mirror. Cheeky, aren't you? Like, her inner self keeps her checked too. And they reflect and show her communicating with her higher self, really, in her soul, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
You're like, yes, you are. Don't push it.
Know your place.
Yeah.
You came here to do a job.
Yeah, she shows the boundaries within herself, and that's where the real magic happens. And that's what a lot of this show is about, and our actual journey to rising, and that takes real life shit, which is what I'm going to share a little bit of right now. So yeah, starting in October is when kind of the chaos started. We were coming off of, in the sea goddess world, and in me and Ursula's work world and our personal lives a little bit, we throughout the summer, we had fun. We had our festival. We had some farmers markets. We enjoyed friends and family and company and visitors and had a good time. Danny Marshburn was out here. She's our lovely sea goddess sister who just opened Infinite Yoga and Wellness in Dallas, Texas. And she will be back out for our festival, for the Light and Sound Healing Arts Festival too, on May 7th. But she came out, we had a good time. We had a lot of things going on. And then I had a new romance start, which was fun and unexpected. And I started dating, and that was cool. Ended up being a long distance relationship where I was traveling back and forth and he was traveling back and forth about 6 hours apart. So we've got that checked all through the fall. Now, come October, chaos started a bit, because pretty much right when I started dating at the time, I also noticed a lump in my breast, and it was right after Labor Day weekend. I was had just been traveling and visiting Vermont, and our friend Danny was out, and we all had a good time. And I started to notice this lump in my breast, and I'm like, what the heck? And I went to get it checked out, and it was like hell to get a mammogram. Hell. And I was like, oh, maybe because it's just an infection and it's not something bad and I'm not supposed to get radiation. Okay. And literally every time I'd show up, the one time I showed up, I waited for hours. I got there. It was my turn to go in. They were like, the machine just broke. I'm like, of course it did. Shocking.
Mm-hmm.
See you next time. And it was just remember, it was a whole ringer. Ursula was there through it.
That was also during Mercury retrograde.
That was during a Mercury retrograde too. And so then, what happened was I finally, after 2 months, ended up getting a biopsy. So before, while I'm worried, don't know what's going on with my boob, which lasts about 2 months, during that 2 months, then my dog also got cancer and had 2 lumps that had to be removed and had to have surgery. My brother broke his back, and my mom and I take care of my Nana and my uncle, and she had to leave and go out to Reno for like 3 weeks to take care of my brother, which, absolutely needs to happen, but then also puts a little bit more pressure on me. So I've got, now I'm balancing a new relationship. I'm balancing building our business and my business, being there for my clients, being there for everybody I'm taking care of. And the boob thing's getting worse. What is the boob thing? Over mothering and over nurturing. And there were a lot of things that I was still doing and showing up as a reflection of who I am and like who I am integrally and wanting to be of service. But there was starting to be some imbalances where I was also in some of my relationships really being used and taken for granted in a lot of ways. And I was doing it because I was giving people excuses or thinking they're incapable or, letting them tell me they couldn't do it. I really, several of my relationships were with people who battle depression, and that's near and dear to my heart. And it's something I've suffered with before. It's something many people in my family have, and it's something that I tend to enable. And I had to learn in my own healing that there's a balance between you really can only do so much. And it does get to a point where you're taking away from yourself. And sometimes just being in certain energies where people are maybe even resentful because you're doing something or they can't or whatever it is, can get really dicey. And so I started to experience this in some of my close relationships, and my boob thing kept getting worse. And I finally ended up getting a biopsy on it, which was horribly painful and not fun at all. I did not feel like I can handle pain. I broke my back 3 times, blown out both my ankles, I've had surgery, all kinds of stuff. That pain was wild, but it's because I had such a severe infection. So turns out my big crazy boob lump was an infection and not cancer. So that was great news. And we got my dog surgery all taken care of. And I was traveling to see, my boyfriend at the time, and he had things come up in his life that were really stressful and overwhelming, and health things going on with his family members. And so life happens and things just get stressful and overwhelming. And for both of us, we decided to take a break after New Year. And for both of us in our own healing journeys and, putting in healthy boundaries, we can't give from an empty well. And so, the focus was, on, having a lot of love and respect for each other, but taking time apart in order to work on one another. And that's a big part of this whole Venus thing and your relationship with yourself. And me, I could take that personally, which I probably would have done in the past, and get really upset and hurt by it, where I could just say, all right, like, this is what it is. I need to have healthy boundaries though, because, you have to tune in how you feel vibrationally. So I was definitely, heartbroken and sad. My partner was wanting to stay friends through this. And I was like, I need to take a break. Like, I'm heartbroken. And if we're going to switch, I can't just go from being in a romantic relationship to being friends like overnight. I need time and space and things. And that was huge for me to say. My voice cracks as I talk about it because I'm used to being like, oh no, it's okay. Like, yeah, everybody's worse than me. Everybody else is worse than me. Everybody else is hurting more than me. So I'm going to cater to how everybody else is. And instead I was like, I'm going to cater to my own heartache, and I'm going to cater to what I need to do to kind of get my life back. And like, I feel like I'm wanting and ready for this, but I'm not going to like push it or make things happen that aren't supposed to happen. And so it was like a lot of divine grace and understanding and love for myself, and realizing I'm somebody who I feel like in times past, I've definitely been in codependent relationships, and most of us have in some way or another. And that's a big thing. Like, we are all learning as a collective how to kind of shift and change. And an interdependent relationship, I've really been learning, is kind of that one we all really want. And it's when 2 kind of whole people come together and make a whole different entity that is the relationship, and it's 1 + 1 = 3, and you get a synergy thing. Whereas when you have 2 people who are, for lack of a better word, unhealed, or have different things that they're like, oh, well, if we get together, you'll be this strength and I'll be this strength, and we can fill in this weakness and that weakness. yes, we do that naturally, even as whole people. However, a lot of times it ends up getting dependent, and we depend on one another for each other's happiness, is where we can find the leaks. Um, it is so important for us to be happy no matter what our relationship status is. It is so important for us to be happy and whole and healthy no matter what is going on in life, because every single relationship in our life is temporary. Even if it's your kid or your best friend or your parent or your spouse, we still only have ourselves in this vessel in our own lifetime. And every single time or opportunity or moment we get with another person, it's truly a gift. It really is. And it's important. This is where we get to start to release attachment. And a lot of Venus really showed up in so many ways for so many people, not only in myself, but I always try to really take a look at what's happening. So for me, it was giving myself permission to not overgive, to have my boundaries, to say, hey, time out. Like, this has been too much. Like, this is too much on my plate. Or I deserve this emotionally too, and I'm not receiving that. And that was a big thing for me, allowing myself to say, I deserve this, especially emotional things, or I deserve this support, because I'm me and I can always, no, I got it. I'm over, it's cool. And most of the time it is, but I'm starting to realize when it's not. And that's when I'm out of energetic alignment. And it's so important to tune into that. So I really let myself, and I let myself just, release the relationship and send it, love and healing, and release the attachment to it. And if it works out in the future, great. If not, that's okay. I'm grateful for as wonderful as it was, as long as it was, and I have the same thing going on, with some of our work relationships and different things like that right now. And it's all coming in order, and personal and in friendships. And it's all coming in order to reflect and to grow and to help me have more self-confidence, have more self-worth, and give myself more permission to say, it's okay for me to need something too. And to give myself that, or to express when it's not being met or reciprocated in a relationship. And that can be the biggest lesson of this whole Venus thing. And it's especially with yourself. What the fuck are you not giving to yourself? You got to build self-love and self-trust. You want all these things in all these other people. You want other people to show up for you that way. You got to build it within yourself. Your own kingdom of God, your own kingdom is within yourself, and that starts there. So if I want a loving, healthy, trusting relationship, I got to create that with myself. So even though, however, like, my heart was definitely broken and I was sad, because who wants a relationship, Jen? Nobody, right? But it is what it is. Wasn't anybody's fault, We can, of course you can get petty and blame, or you can rise and say, this soul needs to work on this, and this soul needs to work on this. And if this can come together later, great. If not, that's okay. But as my heartache was happening, and as I was like, I'm still showing up. I still showed up for my schedule. I still showed up for getting on my yoga mat when I didn't feel like it, drinking my juices when I didn't feel like it, showing up to record, or, like, clients need me. It doesn't matter if my heart's broken, like, their hearts are broken too. And what I can do is show up and be the best me, that I can be. And honestly, being of service is one of the things that I think helps mend and heal us the most. And most people are just on their loops and stuck, in the same things over and over again. So they're not able to get out and shift perspective. And I always encourage people who are just stuck in whatever ways it is to move their bodies if they can, or get up and be of service somehow. Even if you're bedbound, get on some kind of Zoom call and help somebody with something. Like, there's always an opportunity. And then what happens is, when we go and we're of service to others, we get a different perspective, and things shift and change. And you get this, like, amazing kind of confidence within you, because you feel the energies shifting.
Yep.
That's a bit of a nutshell of my past 6 months and all the things that I allowed my Venus and Mercury to teach me. And it wasn't even 6 months, 4 months. I don't even know.
Since November.
Yeah.
So you brought up two really good things that I was putting more pieces together as you were talking. So a shift in perspective is a perfect way to describe a retrograde in someone's ninth house. So that's really, like, period, end of sentence. Awesome. Let's, tie the bow on that one.
And that's the definition of a miracle. Like, A Course in Miracles teaches us a miracle is a shift of perspective and perception. And it's true. Yeah.
And then the other thing too, I didn't realize until you were talking how many things with Cancer came up during that time. And it's really important to kind of touch on that too, because this Venus retrograde was special because it started with her being in very close proximity to the planet Pluto. And Pluto is the lord of the underworld. Pluto is the planet that shows us what's been beneath the surface that needs to rise up to help us to acknowledge it and heal it and release it. And a lot of things that come up with Pluto, and it's been very much in my own personal experience as well, things can show up that are just like putrid, like infections and cysts and abscesses and that kind of stuff. But, it's really painful. But our bodies store emotion. Our bodies store things that are unhealed. So a lot of times when we have things like that working on us, like, Pluto, Venus, especially, those things are going to come up. And when it's in our body, we have no choice really but to acknowledge it and figure out what's really going on. And I think that with Cancer, especially, it's very much related to unhealed, stored traumas and emotions.
Yeah. If we straight up look in our Louise book, we got Cancer. She suggests that the emotions that cause cancer are deep hurt, long-standing resentment, deep secret or grief eating away at the self, carrying hatreds. What's the use attitude? And the way we fix that is by changing those thoughts and mindsets to, I lovingly forgive and release all of the past. I choose to fill up my world with joy, and I love and approve of myself. Now, that is happening so much. And I don't like to talk about it because I don't like to speak it into existence too much, but I've been way, way, way more affected by cancer the past 2 years than COVID. And I've lost people. I've lost several people now. Definitely, it makes me sad. It's been really hard. There's been a lot of cancer loss and a lot of diagnosis. And we have a very close soul sister, it's 2 soul sisters going through it right now. And, one who just lost her mom to it. And it's hit very, very close to home for us.
Yeah.
And if there's anything that we can do, it's to encourage people to really learn what they need to do to release resentment, to release grief, to release those deep hurts and angers and hatreds. And a lot of times it perpetuates because we stay in toxic relationships. We can tell people that we love them and care about them, but we need to have a healthy boundary because they're constantly nursing their old hurts or complaining about things and speaking it into existence. And it's this really hard balance to have. And so it's just important to take a look at, and anything you can do. Forgiveness is about not saying what happened was okay or that it didn't exist. It's just saying it's having wisdom. It's looking back on an experience with the knowledge of it without the emotional charge, which is what wisdom is. And forgiveness is really saying, what you did isn't okay, but I'm not going to carry an ounce of anything in my heart about it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm at neutral. I'm at 0 point. Doesn't mean we're mended or okay. Just means that what you did no longer holds space in my own sacred vessel and eats away at me and causes cancer. Breasts, because I had to look at that one. And I was like, well, what's going on with my breast issues? Because I try to do my best to practice what I preach. And so I'm like, what's going on there? So breasts represent mothering and nourishment. So if you have any sort of breast issue, it says, I take in and give out nourishment in perfect balance. If you have a breast problem, such as a cyst, lump infection, soreness, or mastitis, it is a refusal to nourish the self, putting everyone else first, over mothering, over protecting, overbearing attitudes. I was so guilty of that because I was like, shit, I got a lot on my plate now. I got to do this, this, and that. And were there people definitely putting more on me than I should have? Yeah, but I couldn't see that or understand that. I was just like, okay, you can't handle it too. So I can, I'll do it. And I'll just keep going. And so in order to fix that, it was, I am important. I count. I now care for and nourish myself with love and joy. I allow others the freedom to be who they are. We are all safe and free.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the biggest lessons that I've experienced in my lifetime over and over and over is learning how to put myself first. Because I'm very much the same. Like, I just want to help everyone. I want to be of service. I want to take care of everyone. And many years ago, it's just like, when I went through my own Saturn return experience, that was lots and lots and lots and lots of lessons on all fronts about what's best for me, and learning how to even be okay saying that and not feel selfish, because we're taught that it's selfish, and that's messed up. And one of the things that you say all the time that's been coming up a lot for a lot of people that I know, a lot of people that I've been working with, is that the most important relationship that you have is with yourself. And that has to come first.
If it doesn't, then it seeps into everyone else and everything else, and the imbalance. We must find our own balance. It's where we find our 0 point, our crystalline energy, our connection to source and creator and God and spirit and all the things. It's literally the Course in Miracles. I think it's Neil Donald Walsh from the Course in Miracles, but he talks about a story and he's like, yeah, I want to tell you this story. And like, when he was talking about like, a wife was passing away, or a husband, a partner was passing away, and the other one whispered to them, I can't remember, but my dear, you must remember you have everything you need within you. And like, it's so true. And it really, everything, it doesn't even matter if you're hurt or handicapped or paralyzed, or you have a mental illness, or you have whatever it is. I'm someone who truly believes the word incurable means curable within. And maybe we all have different levels of operation and goals and journeys and different things, but each of us have our own personal responsibility to ourselves and to taking a look at if we have wounds or hurts or things that are causing an issue, and seeing where we can find balance in that within our own lives. And, and sending peace and love to yourself and to others. And when you do that, send it to the collective. If you concentrate and harp on a specific person every single day, you kind of keep that energetic attachment. So you want to be careful with that. But sending love for the highest good is always a good thing. And that's what I do. And I literally, if I pray for people, I just say, angels, please help if you can, if it's for their highest good and they want you to. Like, we all have free will. So it isn't, so when you just got an over ton of love you want to give it up to the collective. Just give that love for the highest good of all. And it helps.
Yeah.
And let people, my biggest lesson is just, people are like, love and accept everyone as they are, and yourself first. And part of that is sometimes having healthy boundaries. And as we grow in this spiritual world and community and stuff, there's lots of new and different boundaries being crossed in different ways, and different relationships, lots of things being explored. And we're even doing that with our own, amazing collective business. And we're all in, kind of navigating some uncharted and uncomfortable territory. One of the resources I like the most for dealing with this is, it's actually called How to Do the Work by Nicole, Lapera, the holistic psychologist. It's an amazing book, and it really starts to talk all about these shadow things. And like, our shadows really are the gifts to our it's like the gateway to our greatest gifts and the things we have to heal. I can't imagine who I'd be today if I wasn't able to heal my self-worth and self-confidence wounds.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sitting here.
No, me neither. Absolutely
not. Really look at that and be like, how am I showing up? How am I letting myself and my body, be used or not treated nicely? How am I treating myself horribly? Am I talking shit to myself all day? Am I worried about everyone and everything else? Worry is a form of prayer. Like, I had to get really real with my inner talk and all the things.
Yeah. And shadow is a good way to put too with Pluto contacts.
Because
it's that underworld experience, and that is totally the shadow self, the shadow world, everything that, where there's no light, that we need to shine light on it. Yeah.
So beautiful. Anything else that I should share that I didn't in regards to this last astrological experience and gauntlet, shall I say? This last rain of fire.
I think you covered
Hell,
the bases.
heart, water.
Yeah.
It's okay. It transmuted me and I feel better now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen a lot of growth in you during this whole experience. It's been, feeling, so hurt when you were hurt, but also just like how you rose up out of it. So
thanks for holding the space. And thanks for seeing it, sister.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Anything that you want to share with us that we didn't talk about yet?
I don't think so. Not at this point.
Cool.
I'm still sitting with some things that came through. Not quite sure what to do with some of it. So I'm still in my little internal process on that. But I do want to mention So when Venus and Mercury go retrograde, they go from being visible in the evening sky at sunset to then shifting to a period of invisibility and then reemerging in the morning sky. And the phase of the planet changes, but the way the energy expresses changes. And right now, if you can get up around 5:30 and look east, Venus is dazzling and brilliant and so incredibly beautiful. So I invite everyone to, if you can, experience that as well.
Beautiful.
She takes my breath away all the time. It's just like I stand at my window and I look out and I'm just like, wow.
And that's how we should feel after this gauntlet. More dazzly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll be shining up ourselves a little. And hold space. If you lost a relationship, if you lost something, it's okay. Trust it's for the highest good. Trust that everybody is doing exactly what they need to be doing for their own soul journeys, and to not take it personally, and to stay true to yourself and help yourself dazzle and shine each and every day, because every other relationship, no matter how long it lasts, is temporary. Mm-hmm. And we need to find our own happiness before we can join others truly.
Yeah.
In whatever relationship or partnership or way that looks like. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Give us a like, a share, a follow. We are Sea Goddess Healing Arts. We just released a beautiful new blog post. Check out our blog on seagoddesshealingarts.com. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We have Love AC coming up this weekend. I don't know if we'll get this show produced by then or not, but either way, if you're watching it, check out our pictures and our art and all of that. And we have wonderful things coming up here for springtime, and 2 classes coming up too. So check out our schedule of events. And as always, my Taurus Rising sister, it's been a pleasure.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, listeners. Take care.